Folks, it's been said that reading the card explains the card, but what if you're bad at reading and add words that you think are there that aren't? That's what happened to me when I was reviewing all of the Lorwyn commanders in this video. Wow, it's up in the corner. You can watch it right now. And I read Abigale, learned the something. Abigale, Eloquent First-Year. This is a bird with flying, first strike, and lifelink, and when she enters the battlefield, she takes away all of the abilities of a target creature and gives them a first strike, lifelink, and flying counter. Now, I misread this to say or first strike, flying, and lifelink, which was already incorrect, and then I misread it again and thought that the creature only lost their abilities until end of turn. Nope, permanent ability removal, which is a lot better than I gave it credit for. A lot of people pointed that out, and I want to be less antagonistic with the comment section and realize that corrective comments are really an opportunity to make more content. So I sat out and I tried to build myself an Abigale deck, something that would make use of this great ability removal machine. And what I found was so shocking, you won't believe it. How's that for a hook? Yeah, we have a Patreon. You can join the Patreon and play Commander with us on Saturdays. I'm playing Commander with the patrons on Saturdays. You get added to a Discord. That's the only thing I like to paywall. I don't like to paywall anything. I'd rather just post every video, and you can just pay me if you think that that's nice of me to do. If you don't want to support me, just support any other creator. Whoever you watch the most, go to their Patreon, support them for $1, $2, $5 a month. Whatever you can afford. If you wouldn't miss that money, your favorite creator would really appreciate it. I also want to plug Just the Human's Ice Out of Minnesota TTRPG bundle. I am a prize in that bundle. Look, we don't want ice here in Minnesota. I live here, and I can say for a fact that no one wants them here. And it's been a real problem. It's been really kind of scary, honestly, being in the city while this is all going on. So this is a TTRPG raffle. You can donate to it to win various prizes. One of those prizes is a 2.5-hour D&D session hosted by yours truly. I will be your DM for you and up to a number of party members. I don't remember what we set it at. Please don't make it like 10. You know, I just want it to be a better game, so let's try and keep it like 5 and under. If you and your friends all want to donate and get a raffle ticket, that would increase your chances of your party being the one that is selected for me to DM. So go check that out. We got a QR code on screen. You can just scan that, donate, and get a raffle ticket, and maybe win a little D&D session from me. Now let's talk Abigale. A lot of the suggestions I saw for Abigale were trying to use creatures that normally have downsides as their abilities, and then you play Abigale, take those downsides away, and get a overpower toughness creature for their mana cost, and also make them flying. First strike, lifelink. Wow, what a great thing. Wouldn't that be awesome? Things like Rotting Regisaur, which makes you discard a card at the beginning of your upkeep. Or the Rot-Cursed Rakshasa, which is a 5/5 for 2 mana with trample, but it's got Decayed, which means whenever it attacks, you've got to sacrifice it, and it can't block. Ooh, that stinks. You could also just go with creatures that don't have any abilities, that are just way bigger than they should be, like Calaxion the Hunger Tyrant. It's a 7/2 for 3 mana. What a rate. What are we playing? Green? And when I first started playtesting the deck, I definitely played with these cards, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think that's gotta be the strategy, right? The only problem is, to make Abigale work, you need to blink Abigale. Her ability is only an ETB, so it only happens when she enters the battlefield, which means you've got to blink her a bunch. And blinking ends up being kind of expensive unless you build your whole deck around blink. So the whole rest of the deck I built around Blink. And when you build around Blink, you also want to get a bunch of creatures with good enter the battlefield abilities, like Abigale has. And what I found was, whenever I was playtesting this, I didn't use Abigale's ability on my own stuff and sort of just had to deal with those downsides because her ability is way better as a removal machine than it is as a buff machine for your own creatures, especially considering if you want to turn off everyone's commander's abilities, you need to play Abigale 3 times. Or, I guess, play her once and then blink her twice. So a lot of those creatures didn't get kept in the deck. There is one that did. Monoist Sentry is a 4/1 with Defender, and taking away Defender and giving it Flying First Strike and Lifelink is really good. It only costs 1 mana, so you can play it turn 1 and then Abigale turn 2 and start just going in over the top and bonking people with it. That's really, really good. The other ones I just found, for their mana values, I'd rather just have an ETB that gets triggered again and again and again when I'm blinking everything. And I'll blink things with things like Teleportation Circle, which at the beginning of your end step takes a creature creature you control, exiles it, and returns it to the battlefield under your control. Things like Conjurer's Closet, which does the same thing, but this is a colorless artifact, so you can put it in any deck. It doesn't have to be a white deck like Teleportation Circle, but you can also put it in this deck. You can also blink at instant speed with things like Ephemerate, which blinks a creature out and returns it to the battlefield, and then this has rebound, so it happens again at the beginning of your next upkeep. That's 2 blinks. Cloud Shift is that, but worse because it doesn't have rebound, so it just does it once. Airbender's Ascension is worth mentioning, and I think we'll just try and mention all of the airbending cards right in a row here. Speaking of Airbending Ascension, I needed a little airflow. Airbending exiles a permanent, and then you can pay 2 mana to play that permanent from exile. Or you can airbend someone else's stuff. That's a flexibility of airbending that you can use, again, if you need even more removal when your commander is already just a removal machine. Every time a creature enters the battlefield, you put a quest counter on Airbender's Ascension, and then at the end of your turn, if you have 4 or more quest counters on Airbender's Ascension, you get to blink a creature. It becomes like Teleportation Circle or Conjurer's Closet. Wow. Airbender's Reversal destroys target attacking creature or airbends a creature. You can either decide to totally kill something if it's attacking you, or you can just bounce it and then pay 2 mana and bring it back. Appa Steadfast Guardian has flash and flying, so you don't have to play him on your turn. Whenever he enters, you can airbend any number of creatures you control, and then whenever you cast a spell from exile, you get to make a 1/1 ally creature. You can use this to blink your whole board out if there's a board wipe coming and you just want to, snap everybody out. Avatar's Wrath has you choose 1 target creature, and then you airbend every other creature. Not just your creatures, but also the creatures your opponents control. Until your next turn, your opponents cannot cast spells from anywhere other than their hands, which means all of their airbended permanents are going to stay up for a second. This gets exiled afterwards, so you can't bring it back from your graveyard, but we don't have anything for that anyway, so don't worry about that. Aang Airbending Master airbends a target creature when he enters. Whenever 1 or more creatures leave the battlefield without dying, getting exiled, you get an experience counter. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you make a number of 1/1 ally creature tokens equal to the number of experience counters you have, which can get pretty goddamn huge when you start doing what I call full-on juggling. Airbending does make you pay mana in order to get your creatures back, but if you have Semblance Anvil, that is an artifact that exiles a card that isn't a land, and then spells you cast of that type cost 2 colorless less, which, since the cost of airbending is 2 colorless mana, makes airbending free. You do have to exile one of your creatures, and that's so sad or whatever, but we have plenty of creatures in this deck since we're trying to blink as many creatures as possible, so I'm not particularly worried about it. Back to blinking, the Far Traveler background makes it so that commander creatures you have let you exile a creature at the beginning of your end step and blink it back down. You do have to control your commander for this, so that's how it's different from Teleportation Circle, but it does not have to be your commander that you are blinking. And you might think, well, the whole point of this deck is to blink Abigale. Obviously, blinking Abigale is the best thing you could do. And no, because you could blink other things that also blink Abigale and then get a blinking juggling scenario going. Things like Abdel Adrian, who exiles any number of creatures you control, and you make a number of 1/1 soldier tokens for the number of creatures you control. Those creatures are only exiled until Abdel leaves the battlefield, so if you had multiple things that said exile this creature and return it to the battlefield, you could return Abdel to the board, exile every creature you control, then blink him again, get all of your creatures back, and get all of the ETBs back, including other ETBs that blink creatures, like Flicker Wisp, which blinks a creature. That does blink things until the next end step, which, if you're doing this with Teleportation Circle, would actually be the opponent's next end step, not your next end step, since it would go to their turn, since the end step already started. This is a little bit busy of a deck, and you've kind of got to figure out how to juggle. I mean, hey, whoever thought juggling was easy? Felidar Guardian is a little faster, just exiling a creature you control and then returning it to the battlefield. Same thing with Restoration Angel, except that has flash, so you can do it on an opponent's turn. If you need to, emergency shut down an ability with Abigale and repeat that ETB even though it's not your turn. For more instant blinking, we've got Flicker of Fate, Parting Gust, Personify. That one also makes you a 1/1 shapeshifter. Eerie Interlude lets you exile any number of creatures, not just one, so you can do your whole board and blink your whole board. Scroll Shift is back to 1 creature, but it also draws a card, and drawing cards is good, and it replaces itself in your hand, maybe with another thing that blinks you. Werefox Bodyguard exiles a creature until it leaves the battlefield. It's got flash, so that's instant speed. It does not have to die to leave the battlefield, but it does have a nice sacrifice ability if you just need to do that right away. I would prefer to just blink Werefox Bodyguard, and when it blinks out, it will return the thing to the battlefield so that you get the ETB again. Probably Abigale, maybe something else, if you've already shut down every creature on your opponent's board. So let's talk ETBs and the value you'll get from bouncing so many creatures. Altar of the Brood is a great turn 1 play, making it so that each opponent mills a card anytime a creature enters on your side of the board. Yep, we might be doing mill as a win con, especially with Thieves Guild Enforcer, making each opponent mill 2 cards as it enters. It's also got Flash, and if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, it gets +2/+1 and Death Touch. Oh, by the way, this is so cracked for a 1-drop. Like, absolutely insane for a 1-drop. For a 50-cent 1-drop? Catch this card in the club. Am I right, 50-cent fans? Charming Prince gives you some options. You can scry 2, you can gain some life, or you can blink a creature to, keep juggling. Corpse Knight makes it so that each opponent loses 1 life whenever a creature enters on your board. We do need a win con, and I think the greatest win con of all is just killing people by so many creatures entering the battlefield. I mean, this is basically Impact Tremors. Corrupt Court Official makes each opponent discard a card. So does Hektize. And so does Elder Fang Disciple. When you start juggling, if you've got 2 creatures that make people discard cards, you're going to empty out people's hands, and then they'll have less things to deal with the fact that you get to juggle all the time. Dawnbringer Cleric gives you more options. You can gain 2 life, you can destroy target enchantment, or you can exile a card from a graveyard. If someone's running graveyards, they might love that you have Altar of the Brood out, and you're filling up their graveyard with all the great things they want to reanimate. This ruins that for them. Stinks to be them. Helpful Hunter draws you a card. So does Spiritual Companion. Do you like cats? Do you like dogs? We've got cat dogs. You're not alone in the world when you've got a little cat dog. Leonin Relic Warder exiles an artifact or enchantment when it enters. That's the end of the first paragraph. The second paragraph is that whenever this leaves the battlefield, you return that artifact or enchantment to the battlefield. Now, if you bring out Abigale and remove all of the abilities, it will lose its second ability, and that means that artifact or enchantment will just stay gone, even when you keep blinking. Good synergy. Resolute Reinforcements has Flash and makes you a 1/1 white soldier creature. It's just more value. It's more creatures. You want a wide board. And the Flash helps you out if you need to block. Sun Cleanser is another one of those that's so funny for this deck. When Sun Cleanser enters the battlefield, you can remove all counters from a creature. So if you took away all of the abilities with Abigale, but gave them Flying First Strike and Lifelink, those are good counters. That's still a good attacker. This makes it also a bad attacker, and it is now just a vanilla creature. You can also remove all counters from target opponents. So if someone else is running a lot of experience counters, I guess. No, they're not. Not anymore. Too bad for you. Tax Collector can get straight up nasty if you juggle it. When it enters the battlefield, you can choose to make everyone's spells cost 1 more to cast until the beginning of your next turn. And if you blink this several times, that cost just keeps going up. Talk about taxes. You can also detain creatures and make it so they can't attack or block, and their abilities can't be activated if you weren't getting enough ability removal from Abigale. Servantham isn't actually an ETB thing, but it is worth bringing up in this deck because it has Vigilance and Menace, and it's a 2/2 for 2 mana, and that's way too good already. But then it gets even better, because whenever a creature dies or leaves the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it and gain 1 life. And then if you decide to blink it when its power is 4 or greater, you get to destroy a non-land permanent. Anything on the board that isn't a land that you don't like goes away because you blinked it, and then you can start blinking again and get it bigger and do it again. Or you could just have a huge Vigilant Menace monster that is going to get so huge because of how much juggling you're doing, because you paid 2 mana, because this is what 2 mana creatures look like in the year of our Lord 2025. I know it's 2026, but the card came out in 2025. Boggart Trawler is overcosted for what it does. It exiles target player's graveyard, but it's also a land on the flip side, so there's no real reason not to include it. Costs 3 life to pay the land and have it come in untapped, but we're also going to be gaining a lot of life with all those lifelink counters we're throwing around. It's kind of fine. It still has a pretty good upside though. Remember, we have some mill effects, we have some discard effects, and there's a lot of decks that don't really mind that. They kind of love playing with their graveyard. Boggart Trawler gets rid of their graveyard, and if you're playing a graveyard deck and someone does that to you, it makes you want to jump across the table and beat them to death. You shouldn't, but you feel that for a second, and then your better, more civilized part of your brain takes over. Changeling Wayfinder finds you a land. That's it. It's hard to ramp in Orzhov. It's hard to find lands unless you want to put land tax in. I guess we could put land tax in. I don't know. The deck's kind of tight already. I had to cut a lot of cards. Circumventer gains you life when it enters the battlefield, and it draws you a card when it leaves the battlefield. So this is value as it goes in and as it comes out. Like good beans. It's a poop joke. Priest of Gix gives you 3 black mana. When it enters the battlefield, it costs 3 mana, so it pays for itself, and then when you blink it and you don't have to pay for it, it gives you more mana that you can use for more things. A lot of the higher end blink things, you know, like Teleportation Circle, those do cost quite a bit of mana. It could be useful to have 3 extra mana floating around. It's never bad to have 3 extra mana floating around. Mage's Attendant is going to let you counterspell in Orzhov, because when it enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1 blue wizard creature token, and you can pay 1 colorless mana to sacrifice that and counter non-creature spells your opponents are casting. So you blink this a bunch, leave some mana up, and you've got free negate, or 1 mana negate. You have 1 mana negates. That's a good deal. Recruiter of the Guard lets you tutor of the Guard and find a creature with toughness 2 or less. There are so many in this deck, and you put it into your hand. That's card advantage, and it's creature advantage, and it's blink advantage. And when you blink this, you'll just do it again and again and again. And you'll fill your hand up with all those juicy small butt creatures. Like it's the early 2000s and everyone's butt was small, because that was the butt meta then. Toby Beastie Befriender makes a 4/4 token when it enters, which is pretty huge. Those tokens cannot attack alone, but they won't have to, because you'll be making so many other tokens through this deck that don't matter. Just, oh, I'll throw a 1/1 ally with it. Great. If you control 4 or more creature tokens, they also get flying for free, so you don't have to worry about blinking Abigale to give them flying. Flying is good. People don't put enough flying blockers in their deck, or reach blockers. You need to fly. They fly now. And it's just kind of a whole bunch of that, and it's a whole bunch of blinking. And blinking, hey, it's pretty darn good. But does it make Abigale a better commander than what I originally thought? Or is Abigale just one of many cards that could slot into the commander slot of a blinking deck? Kinda. It kinda is just a generic blink deck with Abigale on top, but Abigale's decent for that. So I'm sorry to Abigale, and now Ab Lincoln. 7 years ago, we made a deck. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe for more. We're making a bunch of silly videos like this. We'll be talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cards when they have official spoilers and not just some guy took a picture of it at the pre-release. You know, I want to have crispy card images, and I don't want to have like crispy card images. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to support that TTRPG raffle set up by Jess the Human for Ice Out of Minnesota, helping the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and maybe get a chance for me to run some D&D for you and your friends. Bye-bye.